Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Watching Trevor Lawrence walk into the stadium down in New Orleans.
So the line will stay at 1.5 then,
playing,
minus
man.
1.5?
He's not walking with much of a limp. He'll be fine. It's football, man. He's playing. They need him tonight, too. You can't have that kind of a drop-off. And the AFC South's been kind of competitive this year.
Well,
Houston's been great.
I'm going to date myself because Trevor Lawrence looks like a character named Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times.
Yes, of course,
High.
man.
I don't know if you remember
Fast
that
Times?
movie.
I remember Fast Times. You got it.
He looks like Spicoli. He's got the hair,
he
the
does
look.
have that. Him and Stamkos.
Yeah.
That's exactly who it is.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of games in the ALCS tonight, the NLCS continuing as well, baseball playoffs. I'm always curious how, players feel about the playoffs once they're out of the playoffs.
Right.
Like you were a pro athlete for a long time. Once you got knocked out, I don't know if you're sitting there watching the Stanley Cup Finals or not.
I drank for 2 weeks, and then I pulled myself together.
Okay.
And then I did pay attention because I have a lot of friends throughout the league.
Sure. Well, I'm sure the same will apply to our next guest. He is Toronto Blue Jay. He was obviously a big part of what they did this season. He's got a golf tournament coming up that we'll get into as well. Here's Whit Merrifield. How you doing, Whit?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well. What's your routine like once you punch out for the season? Do you keep watching ball games, or do you just get completely out of Dodge?
Play a lot of golf, and I've been tuned in a decent amount. Watching Christian Walker's a real good friend of mine back to our college days, and Jordan Montgomery as well. I missed him by a year, but we went to the same school, and I've gotten to know Monty pretty well. So been cheering for those guys, and I'm actually watching the game right now.
All right.
As you you played with a lot of different guys. Do you still stay in touch with guys throughout the league and keep a pulse on other teams and how things are going?
Yeah, I try to keep in touch with guys as much as possible. Our season is so grueling and long that a lot of times it's hard to stay in touch over the course of the season. You just kind of get lost in your schedule and your routine. But once the off season hits, it's definitely a little easier to reach out and see some guys and talk to guys and get a feel for how the year went for them.
You mentioned, how grueling the season is. I think you guys only get like 18 off days a year. You ever bring the clubs on the road? Is that a possibility? Can you mix in 18 at anywhere? If you got an off day in California, down south, something like that.
Yeah, I play all the time. It's a great way to mentally get away from the game for a little bit. You can drive yourself crazy by sitting in your hotel room all morning and all night, thinking about the game, thinking about your swing and what's going on. So I'll go play, especially definitely on off days. Pretty much every off day I'm out playing if my wife's not in town, and even the morning of, if it's nice weather, if we're playing somewhere where it's cool in the morning, I'll go play in the morning. And I found I feel better that night if I go out and do something, whether it's golf or not, whether it's go out for a walk or go play golf or just doing something makes me feel better that night than just laying around all day.
So if you like 3-putt 18, though, are you walking into the clubhouse just so sour? Like you're just so mad you chopped up the 18th, or let's say you played 9, you take a triple or something, a quad on 9. Are you just rattled walking into the cage for BP later that afternoon?
I'm definitely in a better mood if I play well. That's for sure.
As you should. With Whit Merrifield, you got a tournament coming up, right? Down at the Ritz-Carlton, down in Orlando. What is it? The Pro Athlete Golf Tour, and I'm seeing a bunch of pros, bunch of ball players are going to be down there. A couple of your teammates, David Schneider is going to be down there. I saw Jordan Romano is going to be down there. Like when you host a golf tournament, is that like you're calling the boys saying, hey, I need you here? Or guys kind of reaching out to you, understanding, hey, once we get to the offseason, I'm looking to play golf?
A little bit of both. That was kind of where the idea came up, or how it came about. Came about last year. About this time, I was at a bachelor party with a former teammate of mine in Kansas City and his agent, who's with Excel. And we were big golfers, and Excel is the agency that puts on the match, all those matches, that those guys are playing. And so we got to talking, and we're fortunate to get to play in a bunch of charity type events, which are always fun and cool. But there's a lot of baseball players and hockey players as well that like to play golf. And we wanted a tournament where we could go and compete. You're playing for something. And so that's kind of what this is. It's almost a true style golf tournament where you buy in. There's an entry fee, and that entry fee, it's going to cover hotel room and all that stuff, but it's also going to be a contribution to a purse. And so you're playing to win some money and playing against your peers, and there's going to be some prizes as well. So
perfect.
It'll be a cool way to compete in something other than baseball.
We're chatting with Whit Merrifield. So, once you guys lost Game 2 in Minnesota, obviously everyone was reacting differently up here. I'm sure you guys had your own reactions. Now that the dust has settled, it's been a couple of weeks. Like, how do you look back on that series in Minnesota, and why do you think it didn't work for you guys?
They just outplayed us. They got timely hits. They pitched better and they played better defense. And we just in the playoffs, it's just a matter of momentum and getting getting big hits when you need to get them. And unfortunately, they made plays and we didn't make plays. They got hits and we didn't get hits. That's kind of what it came down to.
Yeah, it seemed like a consistent theme all year with you guys, though. Like you hit for average really well as a team. You didn't, it's not like you guys were bottom feeders in terms of run production. It was just more like clutch hitting, runners in scoring position. Like, that's what everyone on the outside of the clubhouse was talking about all the time. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. But, what was it about the game plan that just never allowed you guys to kind of unleash that? The offense just never really truly felt like it was coming alive in terms of, like, a really bold run production.
Yeah, it was nothing to do with game plan or anything like that. We knew who we were facing every day. We knew what they were gonna be throwing us, and obviously there's parts in the game when guys come out and they know that you know what they got, and so they try to mix it up, and that's just the cat and mouse game. And we got a bunch of pro hitters that understood that. It's just kind of one of those years, kind of one of those things. I wish you could pinpoint it, and I wish you could get a hit every time there was a runner on second base, but it just didn't happen. And why? It's impossible to say why, but it's not for lack of effort, not for lack of ability. The effort and the ability was there, just didn't happen for us.
Whit, you had a strong season for the Blue Jays, so do you take a breath and allow your agent to do some work here in the off season, or what's next for you as far as the plan before you get your next or your future in place?
Yeah, right now it's a little bit of limbo. Can't talk to anybody until the World Series is over, so kind of in the dark right now. But when the World Series is over, I think it's a 5-day period for myself and the Blue Jays to talk about our mutual option, figure out what to do there, and then go from there.
Did you like playing in Toronto, and would you be interested in sticking around?
I did like Toronto. Yeah, there was definitely great parts of being a Blue Jay. It's cool to play for a whole country, to go on the road and see a bunch of blue everywhere you go. I'd been in Kansas City my whole career before Toronto, so I was in a little bit of a smaller market. And so to play in the Rogers Center in front of 42,000 or whatever it was on a pretty routine basis was a great new experience for me, and it was something that I really did enjoy.
With Whit Merrifield, and obviously when you were in Kansas City, you would have come up here a lot, as an opposing player. And I guess your first season here, you would have been, working with the old dimensions of the Rogers Center. And then they did the whole upgrade. They changed the fence. They changed some of the yardage. And like Shapiro was speaking last week, wondering aloud, like he didn't have an answer on why it didn't feel as much like a hitter's park. Like historically, the Rogers Center was a hitter's park. Do you have any theory on that? Like, did the new dimensions, the new look, the way the fence kind of sets up, did it kind of change the way you saw the park and maybe the way you felt like hitters were approaching it?
It was strange. It was definitely strange because you playing in the part, the the dome didn't change. The dome was still the same.
Right.
The fencing was a little different. I mean, in the gap, it was a little bit higher in the gaps, but it was shorter, closer to the line. And then center field fence was down. But, playing in that park over the years, the ball was just carrying different this year. And I don't think it was anything to do with the renovations to the park. I can't say that for certain. But like I said, the dome is the same. The dome is set up the same. There's nothing changed about the dome. There's just the fences were different. So I don't know if the new restaurants or whatever affected the wind flow of when the dome was open, and it maybe cut down a breeze that was pushing balls out or whatever. But balls were dying this year, and it was odd. It was odd, and I don't know why. And I know they try to put these balls in humidifiers to make them even and level throughout the league, but ours seemed to be turned up a little bit high. I don't know what the deal was.
You got a chance to play with Vladdy and Bo. Those are young, up-and-coming, we'll call it stars or superstars. What do you make of their games, and what do you think their ceilings are, respectively?
Both of their ceilings are as high as anybody's. This game is such a tough, mentally challenging game that it's all about going through failures and adjusting. And both of them have the pedigree to get it done. I mean, they both come from baseball families, so they know the challenges that are ahead of them. They know that they have that spotlight on them, and so that when they step in the box, pitchers are going to be have that extra focus level because they know that those guys can hurt them with one swing in the bat. So there's always going to be pitchers are always going to find ways to get you out, and it's your job to constantly make adjustments to figure out how to shrink in those holes. And like I said, both of them are great professional hitters, and they'll be just fine. They're both still young, so I think we need to give them a little bit of leeway when it comes to that. They're both still really young, and they both done exceptionally well for the short career and young career that they've had. So they got a bright future ahead. They both love playing the game, and that's really a big driving force in this game is how passionate are you about it, and how much does playing the game and wanting to win drive you. And I think it does both of them, so they'll be just fine.
With Whit Merrifield, and that's kind of been a big conversation the last couple of weeks, ever since Game 2 in Minnesota, the Barrios and the Kikuchi situation, like how you balance premeditated game plan, analytics, all these different trends in baseball, and baseball's got a ton of sample size, a lot of repetitive plays, but with also just the raw emotion of the game, and you're still dealing with human beings. Like, where do you stand on that, Whit, where, it feels like really since you got into the league, like front offices are heavily involved, analytics heavily involved. There's like an over-the-top amount of information that I gather is supplied to you guys every day. Like, how do you kind of compute that, but also just kind of step into the box and still a kid's game, and you just got to put, barrel the ball and try to do what you've always done your whole life?
Yeah, I'm kind of old school in the sense of I'm an old school kind of guy when it comes to playing, but I do appreciate analytics, and they do have there is a place in the game for it. Just like a lot of things in sports and frankly in the world, whenever you get exposed to something, a lot of times you dive into it and you can overdo it. And I think that's what happened a little bit with analytics. I think it was exposed to people, front offices, and they saw it as this huge benefit. And it is a benefit to an extent, but I think it can hurt you if you rely on it as the end-all, be-all. We're not numbers out there playing. We're not robots out there playing. I think the league has hurt that in a sense to where the league is oftentimes promoting analytics, and so I think fans see that and see numbers and see expected things and exit velocities and pitch movement and all this different type stuff that doesn't always represent what's going on. And I think we're starting to as a game kind of revert, kind of correct ourselves a little bit. And I think that's a good thing, and because I do think there is a place for analytics in the game. I don't think it should be the end all be all, and that should be what you go by. And but like I said, I think we overshot it when it first came on the scene, and now it's been a couple years, and I think we're starting to slowly sort of find that honey hole with it. And I think hopefully that'll get to a good point where you can talk to people like me who are old school, talk to people like, for example, people in the Tampa organization and Oakland that are very heavily analytically involved, and we can kind of be on the same page. So hopefully it keeps trending in that direction.
Right. Feels like it would have to be driven by the players, though, right, Whit? Like, I don't think the front offices are coming off. Like, because it gets wild, to your point. You'll see, and this isn't exclusive to any team in particular, but that guy, player X against pitcher Y, he hits 246 in this scenario. He hits 249 in that scenario, so let's go with that one. It's like, really? We're going to make a call based on such a small, decimal point difference as opposed to, man, that guy's feeling it right now. Like, the obviously the Barrios and Kikuchi situation is the most prevalent one recently. For the Barrios, I don't know if you've ever seen him pitch that well, but, he was humming, man. And it just seemed like it was a game plan, and it was like, this is what we're doing, and we're not going to move off it. And that's new school. That's certainly not old school, because that would never have happened 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken on the Barrios situation enough, and I don't want to keep harping on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think players are being vocal about it, and I think that front offices, maybe not all of them, but some of them are starting to understand that it's not always just about, this lefties can't hit lefties, righties can't hit righties, this guy can't do this because history says that he can't. Sometimes there's a human element, and you make adjustments, and you're hot and you're cold, and sometimes it's just there's track records, and there's guys that can play in moments and guys that can produce in moments even when they're not necessarily feeling great. And I think that's starting to get recognized again. I mean, you look at two of the teams that are left. I mean, they went out and hired two of the oldest schooled managers in baseball with Dusty Baker and
Bruce Bochy.
Bochy. So I mean, it's like, I think teams are starting to say, guys, here's the information. This is our information. Now you go and manage and trust what you see. So obviously it's worked for two of the teams that are left, and I think baseball's starting to trend in that direction, which I think is a good thing.
Yep, I agree with you there. He is Whit Merrifield. So your tournament's coming up down in Orlando, and I think obviously if you're in that neighborhood, a lot of people probably buzzing about that. And good luck. Where's the handicap at now that you've been into the off season here? You going low, Whit, or how are we feeling about the golf game?
My handicap's been down at about 2 for about a year. And it's just it's easy to get from a 10 to a 5. It's really, really hard to get from a 5 to a 0. And that's kind of my progression at this point.
Okay. Well, I've been sitting on a 10 for a long time, man. It's not that easy to get to a 5.
But if you don't have a job for 5 months out of the year, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, very true.
That's fair.
Very true. You got a favorite course up here in Toronto? You get to play any spots up here or what?
I got to play a good bit. I got to play St. George and Toronto Golf Club and Magna and Pulpit and Paintbrush. And the Paintbrush was probably my favorite just because it reminds me a lot of my club at home. So I really enjoyed playing that. Beautiful.
Great spots. Absolutely. All right, Whit, congrats again on a great season that you had individually. The team had a really good season as well. And, best of luck moving into the offseason and good luck with the golf tournament. And hopefully we get a chance to do this again down the road.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
There's Whit Merrifield. Yeah, those are some pretty legit spots he just listed out, too, man. St. G's, Toronto.
The cream of the crop.
Yes.
Like it wasn't.
Yes.
He wasn't going
spots.
to Drager's spot.
No, he wasn't playing dog tracks. It sounds like if you're a 2 handicap, like that, he can play golf.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys. Remember we had John Schneider on? John said the same thing. He's like, during the offseason, he plays like every single day.
Yeah. Well, what
these
else
guys,
are you gonna do?
exactly. They play baseball and then they play golf.
Yeah.
And that's it. If you played baseball as a kid or hockey as a kid, you play golf and you're competitive and you gamble and you're miserable when you play poorly. Like there's a lot of things, man. It's like a Venn diagram.
I guarantee you there's been mornings where he's been on a heater. It's like, I got to get going.
Michael Jordan, this guy. He's like, man, I'm teeing it, man. That sounds like 7 a.m. tee time.
Yeah.
Off, home for the Jeff O'Neill nap.
Yeah.
Into the stadium. BP goes 3 for 4 that night. Goes home. He's like, where am I playing tomorrow?
The Jeff O'Neill nap. That's the
between 2 and 3. You got to shut it down, according to O.
Well, then don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's
exactly.
what you said.
But he needs a nap, or he goes Pete Rose.
I can't remember the last time I've had I had a nap 2 weekends ago, but it was by accident, because I had gone out all night.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
So I fell asleep at noon on the couch because I'd had 2 hours sleep.
Right.
But the outside of that, I can't remember the last time I had a nap. It was when I was a player, 15, 17 years.
Like a premeditated nap. Have I sat on the couch and dozed off with my kids watching a movie or something? Yes, I'm sure I've done that. But 2 o'clock, I'm setting an alarm. I'm going to sleep, and then I'm going to wake up and get in the shower. Like a premeditated, planned out nap. Absolutely.
Yeah, haven't had it.
Not even close. All right, Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider, coming up. Leafs, Panthers tonight. You can watch it on TSN 4. We'll tee it up with Pierre. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Leafs, Panthers tonight. Bunch of games in the NHL tonight. Been talking about Alex Ovechkin today. The Ottawa Senators looking great.
5 Canadian teams, I think, playing tonight.
Beautiful. So, Vancouver's in action tonight.
Vancouver's going to try retribution.
Edmonton's playing tonight.
Yep, Leafs.
Leafs are playing.
Winnipeg and Vegas, which will be a tough game, I think.
That is a tough game. Vegas is rock stars right now.
Larry Brossoit is playing in that.
Larry, attaboy. Yeah. All right. Oh, it better be Laurent.
All right, Laurent.
Laurent
our next
Brossoit.
Yes.
Here's our TSN Hockey Insider, Pierre LeBrun. Hello, Pierre.
Wow.
Yes, was that not great? Was that not great?
Avec la troisième étoile.
Oui, my friend. Oui, mon ami. Oui, mon ami. You know what? I actually took.
Good job picking the Cowboys on Monday, by the way.
I thought that was a pretty good pick, didn't you think?
Yeah. Yep. Well done.
That was a big win.
They needed a bounce back. You knew they were going to bounce back. No.
The incredible stat is I saw the other day. Dak Prescott's now 11-1 after a loss in the last couple of years. Remember that one?
That's pretty good. Yeah, that is pretty good.
Too many losses, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think they're on a bye week now, right? I think they're taking a bye week this week, and then it's time to floor it. Yeah, Cowboys, they're going to the playoffs. Like, you know that, Pierre. I know you're a nervous fan, but they're going to the playoffs in the NFC. It's going to happen.
I don't know. They got road games in Miami and Buffalo in December. Oh, boy. 2 with the Eagles in the next month. I don't know. We'll see.
It's tough. It's tough sledding, man. It's all good, though. I think you'll be fine in the end. I think the Eagles win the division, but we were talking about the Atlantic Division earlier today because Ottawa made a statement last night. Man, did they look good. Detroit's look pretty good. Boston's undefeated. It's very early in the season.
Yeah.
But what sticks out to me is Tampa, Florida, Buffalo, slow starts. Tampa in particular, and the Leafs are in Tampa on Saturday night. No Vasilevsky for quite some time. They have not looked very good, Pierre. Do you get the sense that there's a little bit of concern down in Tampa Bay?
It's interesting you say that, Brian. I spoke with Julian Breezewell the day after their opening night win, and one of the things that I found notable for a team that's gone to the Cup final and won Cups like they have is he stressed a couple of times in our interview how important the start to the season was for them. You could feel the urgency in his voice, and I think, let's be honest, it has to do with Vasilevsky being out. A lot of people around the league questioning the aging Lightning and if they lost too much depth. And my takeaway, I remember that day, was, boy, they really want to win games early. And since then, they haven't won a game. Probably will never want to talk to me again now because of that. But no,
right.
But yeah, I think it would be concerning. And, one of the things that I think they've talked about internally, because now they got all kinds of cap room with Vasilevsky and LTIR, but of course it's kind of useless cap room long term, because once he's back, they need that cap number back on the books. But I mean, if they need to shake things up with a short-term fix, they certainly have the cap room to do it, which is actually rare for them. They've been a cap team for so long. But no, they need to have a good start. Florida certainly has a legitimate excuse. They played really well the other night, but they're missing two of their top 4D, as you guys know, and that's pretty hard to sugarcoat. But it'll be interesting tonight. I mean, given how this ended last year for the Leafs in Florida. I mean, I know you guys have talked about it many times, but I hope people don't, let's not make any mistake about it. I mean, Brad Treliving going out and getting Reeves and Bertuzzi and Domi is a pretty direct result of how soft the Leafs felt they were in that second round series against Florida. I mean, that's just the truth. Now, Domi and Bertuzzi are skilled players, so it's not like you're bringing in guys to drop the gloves and so on. But nevertheless, that factor in that series of where it became a grind and the refs let a big go, it went totally in favor of the Panthers. And I'm intrigued about what we're going to see tonight. To be honest, normally we really don't see much in today's NHL, but I am curious to see what we see tonight.
That's what we were talking about earlier, Pierre. Like, if you had to name 4 or 5, I guess 4 for sure, of the rivals for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't think neither one of us named the Florida Panthers.
No, wouldn't be in my top 4.
We looked at Montreal just based of, we looked at Ottawa,
Boston,
Tampa. Mm-hmm. Like, those are the ones because there's history. They've played in the playoffs. You're up the road with Ottawa, Montreal, regardless of where they are in the standings. It's an original 6 team. Mm-hmm. Like, the Florida thing for me, even though they lost in 5 games, it seemed like, all right, it was done. You kind of move on. You hope you learn some lessons. But it didn't seem like this game doesn't have this massive build for me. I don't know if it does for you. And do you think it should for the Leafs?
So here's what I would say without having asked the Leafs players this, and maybe they wouldn't really want to tip their hand anyway. I wonder if this game doesn't matter more to the players as opposed to the fan base.
Right.
I don't think the Leafs, to a player, are very happy with how that series. Of course, you're unhappy when you lose, but my point, how they lost. And they've heard all summer about Florida pushing them around. It's not fun to hear that when you're a player. Marner taking a couple of, mini punches to the head from Tkachuk at the buzzer after Game 4. Bennett on knives. Rocco Gudis, a machine. And now, of course, he's no longer in Florida. He's in Anaheim. But my point is, there were a lot of moments in that series. It's not why they lost, of course not. But to me, if I was a player in that Leafs dressing room going into tonight, I think physicality, if it's part of your game, would be accentuated tonight, is what I would say.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder how, the new players take that on, Pierre, like what you just said about, Treliving and his view of them losing to Florida, where, if you're Domi, if you're Bertuzzi, who we believe will play tonight, if you're Ryan Reeves, you had nothing to do with that series. Yet you're brought in to bring a little bit of spice. And if it's necessary tonight, I'm curious. And like Matthew Tkachuk, I would expect he plays very well tonight, and possibly right in the middle of everything. And, I think you're probably right. The players would circle this game. I think the fans would still circle Saturday in Tampa as a game that might have more of a connection to because they played them twice and they actually beat them, which means a little bit more clearly. But, we were talking about Alex Ovechkin as well in the 4 p.m. hour, Pierre. Everyone's got a different viewpoint on, how he passes Gretzky, when he passes Gretzky, what Washington looks like. First time in his career, back-to-back games without a shot on net, which is incredible. And he doesn't look great. Does not look great. The team does not look great. Like, where's your head at with Ovi and what he can still do this year and over the next 2 or 3?
I think it's a team that's aging quickly. And listen, I give GM Brian McLennan props because what he's tried to do in the last 6 months is extremely hard. Remember, he was a seller at the deadline. And because they were out of it, and he tried to turn some assets over. But then, come the summer, they wanted to add again because you can't rebuild on a team where Alex Ovechkin isn't going anywhere. I mean, to be honest, it's similar to Pittsburgh and Crosby. The difference is the Penguins, I think, have a little more juice than the Caps right now. But the reality is both those franchises, you can't rebuild. I mean, it's just not an option. The owner in Washington, Ted Leonsis, is tied to the hip to Alex Ovechkin, as he should be, because Alex Ovechkin built him a rink downtown. And that franchise right now, no one's going to come out and say it, but to me, that franchise right now is all about going out and supporting Ovechkin's goals record. The winning part, it's, if it was truly about building back up to a Stanley Cup contender, they would have rebuilt his roster by now. But it's not an option. And I'm not criticizing. I get it. He's the most important player in franchise history, and he's chasing an historical record. Like, let me put it to you this way. Peter Laviolette was not fired by the Capitals. Now, it may be that had that thing played out longer, that maybe Brian McLennan would have moved on from it. Laviolette's deal expired at the end of June, if you guys remember. He announced he wasn't returning.
Right.
Yeah.
And, he's never said this, but this is just my own, sometimes you got to read between the lines, of course, in this job. I think he's a veteran coach that looked around and said, this isn't about winning here. Right. And again, that's just me. No one has said that. I want to be clear on that.
Yep.
But that's what I see right now. Listen, they're going to be better than they were last night. They're not a terrible team, but I just don't know how you get around the fact it's an aging core that you can't really rebuild. That's a tough spot to be in. And listen, they've been a good team for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder, if this goes 3 more years and they're awful anyway, Pierre. It's almost like they could kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Ovi's still there. He's still going to score the goals he's going to score more than likely. Mm-hmm. But if they're going to miss the playoffs by 10 points, or why not miss it by 30? What's the difference at that point? Where then maybe once he gets the record, you've got a new crop of kids in there, and it's like, all right, great stuff, Ovi. Number in the rafters, statue outside. You got the record. See you later. We think we can compete with a completely new era. And that could be, although he would hate that. I mean, he wants to win as well. He wants his buddies there and all that. I get it. But
the other thing is they were the unluckiest team in the entire league in terms of a major signing, and when the world shut down with COVID. Nick Backstrom signed that massive extension minutes. It wasn't minutes. It was like 2 months. 2 months before COVID and the world shut down in 2020. And the finances of the league and the flat cap era arrived right after COVID, and it just hammered the Caps because on top of it, of course, unfortunately for Backstrom, he had a serious hip injury which required very serious surgery, which, I don't know that he still has come back to himself. So all that combined, I mean, that was a big thing, too. That was pretty unlucky for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Pierre, we'll leave it there, buddy. Great stuff as always. Enjoy your bye week for the Cowboys. You can watch my Packers play against Denver. I feel very good about that game.
That's a win.
Better be a win. If you want to be competitive this year, you better be. You talk about a team tanking without maybe planning on tanking. That's exactly what's happening with the Broncos.
I think the Broncos should trade Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys. Why not?
Why not? For free.
There you go.
Yeah, for free. You're looking for someone now, right? You need someone to play shutdown corner. I agree with you on that front. Thank you, Pierre. We'll do it again soon.
See ya.
Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. Washington's just playing for Ovi right now. And I get it. I think, though, if you look at it, he wants his buddies around. They might be the best guys to help him get to that record faster.
Sure.
So then you can shut it down.
Right.
So it's like we need 2 more years of this. Hopefully that if Backstrom can be healthy and Kuznetsov and whoever. Now, Kuznetsov, I think his deal's up this year. Mm-hmm. So he'll have to make a decision. Because if you bring in and cycle out kids in that, they don't have the vision. They're not getting him the
sure.
puck. So now you push him down to 25 goals instead of 35.
Yeah.
That could
roll over another season.
More and more. It drags out the pain. That's the way
it's just such a strange kind of finishing act.
Well, let's hope they turn it around.
They could.
They looked bad last night. Now, Edmonton looked bad game 1. I actually watched Washington one other game where I thought they were okay, but you expect more out of the players that are there. That's really what it is. It's just, I think Washington is a tweener. They're going to be a tweener.
Yeah, I agree with you.
On the bottom side of the tweener,
I think they end up on the outside looking in again.
Yeah.
I think in the East, it's very early.
I could see 5 teams from the Atlantic.
So could I.
From Metro.
Like I could see Toronto, Boston, Tampa, Ottawa, and maybe Florida getting in. And then, I just don't see them getting past Carolina, Jersey, the Rangers.
Right. The Islanders.
I think Pittsburgh's better. The Islanders are okay. And the Islanders are your classic tweener that find a way to get in. Like they live in that tweener world. Washington has not historically with the Ovechkin. They've always been 105, 110 points, President's Trophy.
Right.
This is a new existence for them. I don't know how comfortable they are in that position.
Right.
So it's just going to be interesting with Ovi. You know what he's chasing with Sid in Pittsburgh, similar spot. They're just waiting for these guys, but it's clear in Pitt. It's like we got to try to win.
Right.
And obviously Washington wants to win, but I don't think they can win. So yeah, exactly. Like
different focus.
It is, and there's more guys in Pitt that are getting the send off eventually. Like Sid's not alone. You got Malkin and Letang. They've both been there for 18 years, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Now you got Carlson for 4 more years. Yeah. Like there's a lot of like future Hall of Fame studs. Where in Washington, like Backstrom, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. He was on pace to be. Kuznetsov's a really good player. Yeah. Oshie's a good player, but he's more of a depth guy. He's not the equivalent of a Malkin.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the next 2 or 3 years with those 2 teams.
They're intriguing for me. They are intriguing.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
Just hasn't been a good start. It's not been a good start.
They haven't looked good. No.
Leafs Panthers tonight. Best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Mitch Marner scoring tonight. Last time he was in this building, he did that. Game 4 against the Panthers.
There you go.
Remember, I think he made it 2-0 from the point. Mitch Marner gets on the board tonight. I think he comes out flying. Tonight, tomorrow, this road trip, I don't think he's played great. It's been okay. I think he's got another gear to get to. I expect it happens on the road. I think it starts tonight. Mitch Marner, anytime goal. Matthew Tkachuk, 4+ shots on goal. Over the number 6.5. I could see a 5-4 game tonight.
Yeah.
The way these 2 teams defend at times.
Yeah. Are you seeing
Samsonov
playing?
Samsonov is playing, yes. And the Panthers have given up a fair amount of goals. The Leafs have given up a ton. The Leafs have given up 13 goals in 4 games. Florida's given up 11 goals in 3.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like, we're talking the 95 Devils here.
Yeah, it's not going to be a defense.
I could see it going over the number. So there you go. There's our SGP, same game parlay for the game tonight. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Same game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 18+, physically located in Ontario. We'll come back and tee up the game again. Got baseball games currently ongoing. Game 3 of the NLCS is underway. There was a pitching change, and Arizona was humming, and the home crowd is not happy about it.
Ooh.
We'll get into that in Texas, Houston tonight. Game 4 of the ALCS. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Tell you what, this movie that Taylor Swift has out.
I know, my
kids are going
this weekend.
Yeah, they're going next week. There's a whole boatload of mums and
they're just printing money.
I read that Taylor Swift is projected to make $4.1 billion off the whole tour, which I believe would include whatever she's going to make off the movie. But, the movie's just of the concert.
Right.
Like, it's not a new script.
No, it's just a concert.
Yeah.
Her singing.
And everyone's like, got to go see her. It's like, listen, to each their own. My wife's going. My kids are going.
Yeah.
I had to buy just the concert,
tickets. I had to buy 4 tickets the other day.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I won't be going.
You're not going?
No.
I'm not going either.
I mean,
I actually went to the concert.
Yeah,
I was there in Detroit.
Listen, she's amazingly
phenomenal,
talented, but
talent. Yes,
it's like too much. Like there's things that are overblown.
A lot.
Like the Barbie movie, that was overblown for me.
Still haven't seen that.
Yeah, I went.
Never saw it.
My kids. It was whatever. Fine.
Yeah.
And
Oppenheimer. You check that out?
I'm going to. Isn't that start this?
No,
week?
it's sorry. It came out when Barbie came out. I was the one about the
Scorsese one. That one.
Yeah, that one looks good. And DiCaprio in that?
Yeah, that's coming out this weekend, I think. It might be tomorrow or
Isn't there,
next week.
Yeah, you're right. I've rave reviews. I've been reading about that.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really miss.
No, I'll be watching that one.
He doesn't really miss. Quentin Tarantino generally doesn't miss either. I think he is going to. Isn't he writing his final movie? I think he's made that announcement that he's got
done.
one more. He's making one more. The reason I bring him up is there was a former NFL or former Giant. I think he played in Oakland, former running back by the name of Rashad Jennings. He was on the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
And do we have the audio, the video? You can catch this on TSN2. I think the audio will work as well. He was one letter away from completing the clue.
Yes, the clue. And he couldn't get it.
This is what happened.
Wish I could help. I really do. But if you can buy some time by spinning the wheel.
I'm gonna spin it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Check Aussie.
600.
P.
No. I'm sorry.
So for those listening, it said driving to Reno with Quentin Tarantino. The only thing missing was the Q.
Yeah.
Quentin. And Rashad spun, even though I don't think he had to.
He didn't know. Well, he didn't know.
He didn't know. So he's like, hey, basically, I hope I go bankrupt here. So, and then he goes, P.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Oh.
no, it's Quentin Tarantino. But even if you don't know Quentin Tarantino, Puento, like, why would P-U-E-N-T?
I don't know.
How would that possibly be
a lot
something?
of pressure up there.
I think that's what it is you get up there. It's like Jeopardy. We've done Jeopardy on the show on the fly.
Right.
With questions where if you're just sitting back, you'd probably get 9 times out of 10.
But you overthink
It's
it.
panic-inducing.
Exactly.
Because when you realize you got a time crunch and you got to get in there, and if you punch first and then you're up and people are looking at you and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Wrong.
Exactly.
He's a former athlete, though. He should be able to handle a little bit
Yes,
of
a little bit of pressure.
pressure. No.
A P.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Tarantino would, like, how many people
maybe
don't
he'd
know
never
his
heard
name?
of it. Maybe he'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. I was like,
Anyway.
not everybody loves movies.
No,
guess.
I understand that, but Quentin Tarantino is like,
What would
pretty
be his
A-list.
most famous movie?
I think Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, yeah.
Yeah. Like that was the original. That was the one that made, I think Reservoir Dog was maybe, Dogs
yeah,
were his
that was-
first one.
I like that movie.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Is that his movie?
It might be. I
think so.
I've seen all of those movies, but
Glorious Bastards is his movie. Kill Bill, great
Kill Bill. I
movies.
was just gonna.
Both
say,
of them are great.
Kill Bill. They're very graphic though.
They are. Oh,
That's
it's
the
over
thing.
the top, man. But Uma Thurman's phenomenal in those movies.
I know, but
Phenomenal.
that is Tarantino movies. They are. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a good movie. I didn't think it was great.
No, it was okay.
But I thought the cinematography was cool. Like
From Dusk Till Dawn.
that's what I'm thinking
Clooney.
about. Not Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I'm thinking from Dusk Till Dawn.
The Hateful Eight.
Not bad, not great.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, there's some like a ways. back.
Django Unchained.
Yeah, Django
he did.
Unchained. Yeah, I think he was in that.
Yeah, that was his movie, I believe.
Man, oh man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to his new one. Put it that way.
Yeah.
That'll be-
Quentin. He's coming out. Quentin Tarantino is coming out with, I believe, his final movie at some point, like his final act. Scorsese can't. Like, how old would Martin Scorsese be?
He's got to be 80.
80 something. Because I think
You
is
think
De
he
Niro in
does
this
it?
movie? I think he is.
But I think wouldn't Scorsese? Is he the guy boots on the ground, or is he just kind of the figurehead? Like
That's a good question, but I thought like he's the director, so I would assume he's like right in there. Like you got to be in the trenches if you're doing that.
He's 80 years old. So there you go.
Good for him.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, I've heard it. It looks like a pretty cool movie.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah. So it looks like it just got announced that Trevor Lawrence is playing tonight. That is a little bit concerning, I have to be honest, for
your new
Hayes and company. Well, I'm on the Saints tonight. I just feel like it's been a really kind of crazy schedule recently for the Jags. I think they'll be conservative with him. He's their poster boy. He's got a bad knee. It's on turf.
Yeah.
Right? Short week. Saints, I think, show up and play tonight.
You predicted 21-20.
21-20 would not be good because I'm laying 1.5. So I need 21-19.
You need a field goal or something at the end.
Yes. Or 24-20, late fidge.
There you go.
That's my play.
You'll take it.
24-20 Saints tonight, and they cover. And that probably push it over the number. I think the numbers are like 39.
Be good.
All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that as well. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.